Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Mary Grace, and we are live today. I have a wonderful guest for you, one of our favorites here on Mary Grace Media, and that is our friend Sam Faddis. This is today's episode of Spy Talk. Welcome back to the show, Sam. It's great to have you here.
It has been too long, Madame. Thank you for having me.
Way too long, but you and Mrs. Sam the Spy have been very busy, as have we. And, we're rolling into the end of summer, and we always say that we're going to have you back quickly, and then months and months go by. But that's okay. It just builds the anticipation. For those of you who are new to Sam, Sam has an erudite resume. He has been a senior operator with the CIA. That means that he actually did things out in the field. He didn't just sit behind a chair and read and analyze things on a screen. And he also has a history in politics, and he is a lawyer, and 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 he's very active in a lot of things that are happening behind the scenes that I think some of you would find very would give you hope about what's to come. And we can't really talk about a lot of that, but I just want you to know that Sam has his finger on the pulse of a great deal of things, in addition to trying to secure the election in Pennsylvania for Trump for 2024. So that's just a short little bio. But Sam, there's so much that's on that's happening nowadays. I think I want to start with something that hit very close to home for you guys, and that is what happened 3 weeks ago in Butler, Pennsylvania, when an assassin's bullet just narrowly missed taking out President Trump. Can we talk about that a little bit? Just start
Yeah.
with just your thoughts, your feelings. 3 weeks in, where are we on this?
Yeah, well, my hesitation is because there's, there's so much bad to talk about in regard to Butler. It's hard to know where to begin. And I'm laughing, obviously, not because there's anything amusing, but just because it's still almost breathtaking what happened. Not almost, it is breathtaking. Look, I was an Army officer. I was a clandestine ops officer in the CIA for a long time and spent another decade after that basically building and running training courses for clandestine operators. So I taught a very large portion of our intelligence community how to operate on the ground. So I'm not a protective detail guy, but I have worked with protective details around the world, and including working with particularly the advanced teams for the Secret Service. But maybe more to the point, it was my job for a really long time to be the guy, if you will, who plans and executes the operations to penetrate other people's security. Not to put too fine a point on it, but if there's a target guarded by the equivalent level of security that Trump should have been guarded by, I would have been in the position, others working with me in the position of figuring out how to get through that security. Again, assuming the President of the United States directed us to do so. For instance, if we were talking about a hostile nation state or a terrorist group. So all of that is not to blow my own horn. It's just to say that I've spent the better part of my adult life up to my eyeballs in the concept of security and penetrating physical security. So from that as a platform, to look at what happened in Butler almost put me in anaphylactic shock is the best way I could describe it. Like, it's not a matter of trying to get down in the weeds and figure out, well, what specifically might have gone wrong here. This is a catastrophic failure on such a scale that if I didn't know it was true, I'd tell you that's bad fiction. I mean, there are so many gross errors, fundamental things here. Before we get to any fine tuning, this is just no security. I mean, just the most basic building blocks. You a high point, an elevated firing position within eyesight of the target, in this case, Trump,
Yeah.
within what amounts to pretty short firing range if we're talking about protecting a target of his significance. You don't observe it. You don't hope that nobody gets up there. I mean, you may observe it and you may put people around it on the ground, but you know what? The first thing you do is you put armed people standing on top of the roof.
But it was
Yeah,
steep, but it
like
had an incline.
yeah, I know it was terrifying that it that I mean, an 8-year-old would have been up there hanging out watching
Yeah.
the show, but you know what I mean? Like, before we get to any
Yeah.
more sophisticated stuff, the first step is all such elevated firing positions are simply physically occupied by good guys to make it as basic as possible, right?
Right.
And keep in mind that this roof, okay, let's just call it 150 yards, 150 meters away. That's roughly correct. Okay, this is a protective detail, a service that theoretically is supposed to be protecting Donald Trump against threats. Well, I don't know. Let's talk about this. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. The Iranians have specifically said they intend to kill him because he killed the Quds Force commander Soleimani, or had him killed. Okay. So you know that you are protecting this guy against potentially assassins trained and armed and fielded by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. Okay, so now we're talking about potentially sniper rifles, 50 caliber sniper rifles. So 150 yards is not your perimeter. Are you kidding me right now? I mean,
1,000 yards, right?
1,000 yards.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's not necessary. We don't need to get lost in sensitive details. I don't want to write a primer for an assassin here on air.
I mean,
But
everybody saw American Sniper, though. I mean, we
the bottom line is you're talking about the
yeah,
big boys coming to town, and it's not if you know that this man is on their list.
yeah,
Yes, 1,000 yards could be okay, and then we could move on into the world of drones and yada yada and everything else in the world.
yeah.
So telling me that you didn't bother to control a roof before we get into all the communications issues and everything else is just incomprehensible. As I think at least one, Josh Hawley, I think, has said this multiple times in hearings up on the Hill. I mean, basically, there's at least a half dozen people in the Secret Service chain of command who should have long since lost their jobs, at a minimum, been fired.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, everybody, and obviously the head of the Secret Service, but down to whoever was theoretically running the show. Anyway,
Yeah. Yeah.
almost incomprehensible.
I had Sheriff Sheriff Richard Mack on the show
Mhm.
last week, and we talked about it a little bit, and he had a lot of things to say similar to what you said. One of which is that when we saw them putting the blame on the local sheriffs, or the local law enforcement, he said that in his experience as local law enforcement, state and local, that really they're not in the business of doing what he called celebrity protection,
Right.
high profile protection. They almost always would defer and turn over the event to Secret Service. And so for the Secret Service to turn around and first of all, not even be in the morning briefing,
Mhm.
and secondly, not to take care of the most basic um, security perimeter needs. It's really like you said, at the very least, put a guy on the roof. I mean, you could have had a couple guys up there with lawn chairs, and that would have been enough of a deterrent. Even
Yes.
unarmed people
Yeah, and
up
if
on
you
up
if
on
you
that
look,
roof.
if you want to also have Overwatch and do all kinds of other cool stuff, but again, let's just start with basic
Yeah, yeah,
security 101. A buddy of mine who's a retired special forces officer, when he and I talked about it in the immediate aftermath, his response was a private in the U.S. Army would have known to put a man on that roof. I mean,
yeah,
come on. Also, I got to tell you, from my standpoint, having been an Army officer, having served in the agency in the U.S. government for a long time, this whole pass the buck thing makes me almost want to puke.
yeah,
right? There's no such thing as, first of all, you assume nothing in an environment like this. Anytime a junior officer was briefing me on the field on a plan and I asked him a question and his response was, well, it should be okay, or the radio should work, or the guys should be there by that point. My response always was to basically jump down his throat and say, there is no such word should in our lexicon. Like, you either know or you don't know, it is or it is not. You can't assume anything. And when you're in charge, I'm sorry, you own the responsibility. A second lieutenant in the U.S. Army knows that. When your op is all screwed up, you don't say, well, I told Sergeant so-and-so to do it. Nobody cares.
Right.
You're in charge. Whoever the site lead was for the Secret Service or whatever their exact terminology is, you owned security for that.
Mhm.
If the state police gave you
Yeah.
resources, if the locals gave you resources, good on them. I don't care. And nobody else should care. It is irrelevant. If you told the locals to do it, and I don't think actually any of that's true, but even assuming it was, and then you didn't confirm that they had done it and didn't immediately address it if they hadn't, that's still back on you, man. You own that. Like, basically shut the hell up and stop making excuses. You and and, and then you have a threat, you have an issue, but you allow the principal, in this what they would call the
Mhm.
principal, Donald Trump, to go on stage, and you leave him on
Right.
stage.
Right.
And while
Right.
this, come on, no, what you see, there's literally at least a half dozen people in the Secret Service chain of
Yeah.
command, and maybe more, who should no longer have jobs.
Right. Well, and I think too, one of the things that I think is worth noting is that as somebody who's put on events, even I would know enough to keep our keynote speaker away away from the stage, right?
Yep.
The minute you hear of any kind of threat or potential danger, you would be keeping the speaker off the stage and more than likely evacuating the area. And
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's just basic. One thing I wanted to ask you though is when it comes to the current situation, we have seen President Trump since then giving kudos to the Secret Service, for the job that they did and not bashing the FBI and things like that. And I know that he feels very strongly that there are rank and file members of those institutions that really are, I think, caught in the middle of some very evil deeds. But in terms of his current safety, Dan Bongino thinks that he's in grave danger. I've talked to other people who believe that he is in grave danger from within. How what do you think about that? Given your history, given your background with these type of operations, how do you think he's doing? Does he need to bring in all private security? Like, or are we in a situation now where we're depending on God alone to protect him?
Well, in terms of his tone, I understand why he has taken the approach that he has.
Yeah.
And I think
You
for a
can't
whole
alienate them, right?
no, well, and also I just think for political considerations, I mean, we're in the middle of an election and we're less than 90 days out. And one of his big I won't say liabilities, one of the big criticisms of him has been him being too harsh in the past. I don't share that sentiment, but I those are crass political considerations, but I think it is probably a smart move to take the high road. And if somebody else has got to get out the meat axe, to let people do that on his behalf, not him. Do I think he's in danger? I would be, yes, 100%, because I see the extent of the failure in Butler is difficult to convey. I mean, the average American understands that this is all messed up. And as you said, honestly, I think a dozen guys pulled off the street using common sense would have done a better job than Secret
Yeah.
Service of protecting when you understand how this is supposed to work and the level of the threats they're theoretically supposed to protect them against, the magnitude of the total systemic failure in Butler is breathtaking. I mean, what it tells me, and unfortunately this is true of many of our agencies now, is the Secret Service is basically no longer combat effective, if you will. They're no longer actually capable of doing their job. And a lot of those folks, as we now know, weren't even really Secret Service personnel that were on the ground. And the site lead apparently had been criticized many times previously for doing a terrible job, and communication was all screwed up. And quite frankly, when I watched their reaction after the shots were fired, all I kept thinking was, you guys are pathetically slow by the standards to which you are trained. When a 78-year-old, when the gunshots are fired and a 78-year-old man has put himself down the ground undercover, and I still don't see a single one of you in the frame protecting him, this is in other words, if that was a training exercise, I got to tell you what, everybody here just failed. None of you passed. Run it again. Run it again. Yeah. And frankly, you'd be losing your mind. Are you kidding me?
I agree. I agree. That was one of the first things I noticed. And you and I talked immediately after this happened.
Yes, we did.
And I was, well, there's a few things that I noticed that since have been corroborated, but that was one of the ones, is that President Trump got down faster than anyone else reacted. And he was in total control of the situation. Total, from the minute he went down. And I want to talk about this too, because I still think that some people don't get the significance of the way that President Trump handled this, and the way that illustrates to me his fitness for office and to be the commander in chief. I want to come back to this point. I want to take a very quick break, and we're going to come right back, because I do want to talk about this and just a little bit of analysis of, how he handled himself. Guys, we'll be right back.
Listen, we're finally bringing the most requested offer ever. Get the queen size premium MyPillow, now only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long, so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get our 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets, only $25. Our brand new mattress topper as low as $69.98. Get our famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen-size MyPillow, only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay, order today. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks America!
You got to love Mike Lindell. Listen, everybody, if you're sending kids off to school into dorms and apartments, skip the stores, skip the lines, just go to mypillow.com, use promo code Mary Grace today. Their shipping is super fast. You can have everything in the house, washed, folded, ready to put in the car. You don't have to stop at the big box store, because they have everything you need for the dorm room or apartment. Go ahead and do that. Support this America First company, and it supports the channel here at Mary Grace Media. So Sam, we were talking before the breaks. I've got Sam Faddis with me. We were talking about just the reaction time that Trump had and the way that he controlled the situation. To me, this illustrates that regardless of age, it's the fitness for office was demonstrated on that stage. What do you think about that?
Yeah, no question. Look, I was an Army officer. I was an intelligence officer for a long time. I've gone through a lot of training. I'm not a SEAL. I'm not a Green Beret. I don't pretend to be, but I have gone through a lot of counterterrorism training and a lot. this kind of stuff, and then served in a lot of bad places where people were getting shot and blown up and so forth. Everybody's a hero in training. Every time you're doing reaction drills, ambush drills, you're getting shot at, you know, everybody's John Wayne. I don't know. We don't say John Wayne anymore right now. It must be Vin Diesel or somebody. But anyway, everybody's a hero, right? Everybody's going to charge a machine gun nest. Everybody's oblivious to gunfire.
Yeah.
As soon as it goes live and you're in the real world and somebody's, you know, firing, shooting at you, things are blowing up, there are threats. A whole lot of people all of a sudden are not heroes anymore. A whole lot of people not only are hiding, but quite frankly, kind of dissolving around you. In fact, usually the person who had the most to say and was thumping their chest the most during training is now the one that is hiding somewhere and you can't get them to do a friggin' thing. And then some people react completely differently to that. For some people, it energizes you. I don't mean in a stupid way, not in a cartoonish way. I just mean it maybe activates is a better. You respond to the threat and to danger by doing what you need to do. And I think that's what you saw in this case clearly with Donald Trump. This was not a game. There are live rounds coming in. One guy's dead behind him, or soon to be dead. Other people have been hit. He doesn't even know at this point that they have necessarily neutralized the shooter. Frankly, nobody, by the way, knows there's only one shooter or that this isn't just the beginning of the attack. So this is as real as it gets, guys. And the man gets up off the stage and his first instinct is to show everybody I'm still here, and then put his fist in the air and say, you know, basically, we're going to fight. This is not intimidating me. I'm not backing down. That's about it. Like I say, that's as real as it gets, man. And I have been in situations where all of a sudden it's getting real and people are hurt, people are dead.
Yeah.
Some people rise to it. A lot of people don't. Probably most people do not. So you can like the guy, you can love the guy, you can hate the guy. You can't deny that is steel. That's something remarkable.
And yeah,
I was saying, I was thinking actually, strangely enough, before he got shot at Butler, about the shooting of Teddy Roosevelt, like 100 years before, where Teddy Roosevelt, as president, was giving a speech and he got shot in the chest with a small caliber round. They took him back, was lodged in his chest, but Roosevelt insisted on going back out on stage and saying, "It'll take more than that to kill a bull moose," and finishing his speech. And it was one of those things that you read about in history and you're almost thinking, is that possible that could even be true? And then, good Lord, you watch this video and you're like, wow, that just happened again, man. This guy just got shot at and actually hit. And his response is to stand up on stage and put his fist in the air.
yeah, yeah. It's remarkable, and I think that this is what, to me, that response, and also the response of the crowd, the fact that A, you didn't have a stampede, and B, there was no rioting, like we
Right.
saw 4 years ago during 2020.
Right.
I believe that the people behind this were counting on those two things happening. First, three things. They were counting on finishing the job. They were counting on a stampede and more collateral damage, and they were counting on MAGA doing violence, because that is the narrative that they have seeded and that they want people to believe. But we weren't playing their game, and we won't play their game. And
Right.
so this is why they had to go into overdrive to bring in another Manchurian candidate. And so we're in a crazy situation right now. And I want to ask you about this campaign, this so-called campaign. We know that they thwarted that they completely subverted democracy to install a candidate that not a single person voted on. We already know that. That's established. But as an operator, I wanted to ask you about sort of the information operation that's happening right now around her campaign and, sanitizing walls, um, and really trying to present this image of a person that simply does not exist as a future, quote, female president. What do you see from an operational standpoint? What are they doing to mind rape the people, for lack of another expression?
That's
Uh,
probably horrifying as it is. That's probably an appropriate term to use.
yeah,
Look, I hear a lot of people, as you indicated earlier. I'm involved in a whole bunch of stuff on a bunch of different levels. But one of the things is obviously a lot of Pennsylvania politics and the Trump campaign up here and so forth. And when I'm talking to people about things politically, I hear a lot of people basically talking about the way Harris is running her campaign now, Harris and Walz, and how she doesn't engage with the press and she doesn't do press conferences, basically doesn't talk. And if she does talk, it's always just reading off a teleprompter. And somehow at the end of this conversation, it's always, well, she can't keep that up. Sooner or later, she's going to have to answer questions. She's going to have to go out and do this. She's going to have to do such and such. And my response to that is, and let me just say this as bedrock, in case anybody has any ambiguity on this front. I despise the woman. And the only person I probably despise more than her at this point is this thing she selected as vice president, this amoral scumbag. But so this is not a value thing. This is just a tactical thing, I'm going to say. The answer is no, she doesn't. Don't you understand? That's not the way they play this game anymore. What you saw with Joe Biden in 2020, where he hid in his basement and there wasn't any campaign in any traditional sense, was not a one-off just because Joe's a loser. I mean, Joe is a loser. That's the new template, right? Because they control so much of the news media, and they control the way people consume their news through outlets like Google and their control over Facebook, etc. So between their control of social media and their control of CNN, MSNBC, yada, yada, they can completely craft a completely artificial reality. So the stories that are detrimental to Kamala, whatever her name is, and Tim.
I have some more names, but they're not.
There are a lot of names that are probably inappropriate for the show, but look, they just, so using that for the people they're talking to, their supporters, and the people in the middle who still don't quite get what's going on. They create stories that are completely fictitious, and they erase stories that are completely factual. So Kamala has somehow now magically gone from being a babbling idiot who literally can't complete a coherent sentence and who's accomplished nothing positive as vice president, to being somehow kind and gentle and a unifier and inspired and all of this. And a guy who let BLM burn Minneapolis to the ground and thinks it's okay to mutilate little children and all this other crap, is now a moderate Midwestern Democrat. So, yeah, the whole thing is a giant psyop because they create a completely alternate reality. And look, that essence for psychological operations has been true forever. What's new is the tools they have and the capability. So in 1954, the Central Intelligence Agency, as directed by the U.S. government, overthrew the government of Guatemala. And one of the key elements to that was taking control of a radio station and broadcasting continuously in Guatemala City that a rebel army was about to enter the city and it was all over, man, and the president had fallen. That was largely made up. I mean, there was a rebel force, but on nowhere near the magnitude. So what the CIA did using a radio station, if you will, was to create an alternate reality for the people of Guatemala in which it was all over. There was no sense in resisting, and the rebels had already won. That was okay, that's on a really tiny, silly JV level. But the
Yeah.
point is, that's what the
Yeah.
technology and the capability of the time allowed. Now you've got that same principle, but now you're pumping it out on Facebook and Google and everything. I mean, as you know, writing for ANDMagazine, I write all the time, and I'm always researching. I use a bunch of different search engines, but I often use Google as an initial step. I'll be looking for an article that I know exists, and I'll have to go through 7 screens of search results
Yeah.
to get to it. And the only reason I do that is because I know that it's out there, so I'm pursuing it. Can imagine the average person Googles the same topic,
Mm-hmm.
and the first 50 results they get all tell them something that's not
Yeah.
true.
Yeah. Well, it's actually being reported now, and Elon Musk has been bringing a lot of attention to this on X. He's not the one who discovered it, but it's been being reported that Google is heavily manipulating search results
Yes.
around President Trump, and that's election interference.
Yeah.
So, for example, when you Google President Trump rally, the whole top line of articles and videos has to do with Harris, and
Yes.
so they're manipulating the search results to show to make Harris dominate the feed, and
Yes.
and I think one of the things, I always want to get back to the practical, and this is something I want to give people some tools to use here, and this is important, and I'm gonna and I think when it comes to just communicating and messaging to people, we have to be brief and factual. And I'm going to give you a fact right now that I think is important to use. First of all, I don't know if people are aware of this, but President Trump just posted on Twitter for the first time in 3.5 years. It just came up on my notifications. He's one of the few people I have notifications for, and he posted a video. And why is that significant? Because a number of reasons, but he's been off of that platform since they banned him, and then Elon brought his account back, but he hasn't been posting. So for those of you who are unfamiliar, this is significant. The other thing that's significant is that the video already has, it's been up for 20 minutes. It has 1.7 million views. And his account, he has, let me see how many followers. He has 88 million followers. It's 2.5 million views. Okay, I had just refreshed. But the point is that if you go to any of the social media for any of these other people, and you look at the metrics, just compare on a real platform like X, where they are, it's the closest thing that we have to a level playing field right now. It's not perfect, but it's the closest. So you do a side by side comparison, and I would actually encourage you to do this if you have anybody that you think is maybe on the fence or is being manipulated by the media. Just show them the numbers and say, I know that the legacy media is telling you this, and they're spinning a story, but I like to look at numbers because numbers don't lie. And so you tell me who's actually the more popular candidate, and really who's the best for this country. If Kamala Harris puts up a video, how much engagement does it get? And then what kind of engagement? If the White House puts up a video on any of their social media, just go look at the comments. The comments are not overwhelmingly in support of these buffoons. It's very damning. And so these are the things that I encourage people to look at. And I do want to remind people, a couple of my listeners in the chat have been reminding us of this, that President Trump is going to sit down tonight and do an interview with Elon Musk. So this is going to be very interesting. Regardless of what you think of either person, I would say that these are two of the most iconic individuals in modern history. And so I encourage everybody to take part, find a platform that you feel like you can support. I will be watching it on X. I don't know if it's going to be streaming anywhere else. This is probably a good time to get back on X if President Trump is there, or to get on X. And, one of the things I'll remind people that General Flynn told us is, don't leave the battlefield. And you may have all kinds of feelings about big tech and what they're doing, but that's the battlefield. And that is where we engage. That's where we fight. Also, boots on the ground, people. Don't forget that. Because if you're not doing boots on the ground, which Sam is doing, then you're not having any impact or any effect. Now, I want to use this opportunity to take another quick break, and then I want to shift and let Sam talk a little bit about what's happening in Pennsylvania, because that is really ground zero of the battleground states for this election. They want desperately to win Pennsylvania, and we'll talk about that when we come back in just a second. So hold on, guys. I want to introduce you to another one. Not introduce. I want to share another one of our sponsors. This is our freeze-dried beef company, Grid Down Chowdown, and they have a beautiful commercial that they just made for us to get to know the farmer. So we'll be right back.
This is my brother, and I'm Nace, and we're at the Grid Down Chowdown, and this is Larry, who is a local rancher that we've partnered with. Now, Larry, you've been ranching for over 4 generations, is that correct?
That's correct. I'm 3rd generation, my son's 4th generation, and I've got some grandkids that are 5th generation.
Man, that's awesome.
We've been here for quite a while, yeah.
All right, now, Larry, your cattle is grass-fed, grass-finished, and pasture-raised, just like God intended them to be.
Yes, because I want to know what's in that animal,
Right.
what it's been fed, and so the only way to do that is for us to keep it all natural, just like God has done it for years and years and years, thousands of years.
How has partnering up with us helped you and your ranch?
Well, it's allowed us to develop a market that we didn't have before, one that can get directly to the consumer, and that's great.
And just remember, more importantly, with every package that you buy, we put a salvation track in there. So from the bottom of our hearts, we thank you for allowing us to do what we believe that God has us here to do. And just remember, God loves you. He really does.
Amen.
Okay, for some reason my QR code isn't working. You're going to go to griddownchowdown.com and use promo code Mary Grace. These guys are amazing. They have given us lots of product. Here we go. Here it is right here. So this is a pound of beef, and it's shelf stable for 12 to 25 years. So if you're prepping, it's right here. All you need to do is add water, clean water, and then you've got raw hamburger, and you can do whatever you want with it. That's what that is. It's upside down. Sorry. Okay, Grid Down Chowdown. We've had the guys on the show. So promo code Mary Grace, and you're supporting local ranchers and farmers, which is fantastic. And those guys are just great. I love them. Okay, so let's go back to what's happening. We've got Sam Faddis here on the show. Sam, you're up in Pennsylvania. You have the Pennsylvania Patriot Coalition. There's some incredible people up there. A lot of those people are on my social media, especially on my Facebook. We have a heavily engaged audience on Facebook right now. So I just want to give a shout out to all the Pennsylvania people. You guys are awesome. Everybody else is awesome too, but we're focusing on Pennsylvania. And Nancy is one of our people up there. She's incredible. She's done a lot up in the Erie area. And I know I'm going to miss out on some people, so I'm not going to try to name everybody. But you guys, tell us what you're doing. Tell us the strategy that you're working on. And how you're planning to beat the Democrats in the 2024 presidential election.
Right. Well, Nancy and the crew up in Erie are fantastic, and they are representative of groups all across the state. So baseline, what we did on from a coalition standpoint, the Pennsylvania Patriot Coalition is a confederation, if you will, of Patriot groups, America First groups, MAGA groups, whatever we're going to call them, across the state. So try to get all the tribes generally moving in the same direction and cooperating, which, yes, is a giant cat herding expedition operation. And there are good days and less good days. But on balance, we have made a tremendous amount of progress and actually set the bar for other states in terms of actually getting all of these very independent-minded people to cooperate. So what I did on behalf of the coalition back months ago, as president of the coalition, I went to the Trump campaign, directly to the top of the Trump campaign in Pennsylvania. And I said, listen, you guys are setting up all over the country, all over the state, all over the country, but in specifically Pennsylvania. And you're obviously going to interact with the establishment GOP, my term. And we've sometimes got some heartburn with the establishment GOP, but the point is, right now, we need to focus on the prize, which is Donald Trump has got to win this election.
Yeah.
So you guys are going to talk to the county GOP in X county? Cool. But you got to talk directly to the Patriot movement as well. You cannot communicate with us through these people. So you want to deal with the county GOP, that's fine, not kicking. We'll deal with that after November. Right now, you also got to talk to all these Patriot groups. So if you're up in Erie, where Nancy Blackwood's group is, want to talk to the Erie GOP, okay, have at it. But all the energy, all the foot soldiers, everything is in the Patriot movement. And if you want to win the war, you got to work directly with us. I went into those conversations, just for the record, probably thinking I was going to have to convince them. That is not the way that played, just for the record. As fast as I finished giving that speech, the response from them was, yes, we get it. We know who will do the work, who the grassroots are, and tell us how we make this happen. So we are lashing up with them, have lashed up with them directly all across the state, and are working with them. Are there bumps in the road? Yes. Does everything go exactly as we would like it to go all the time? No, obviously. But it is making a huge difference. Here are two things I would really like everybody to absorb. Wherever you are, if you want to get involved in this campaign, and you should get involved in this campaign, we're down to less than 90 days. We're down to brass tacks. This is where the rubber meets the road, whatever metaphor you want to use. There are two things that are crucial to winning this election at this point for Donald Trump. First is you got to get all these people who are talking smack all the time about being MAGA to actually participate in the process and vote. What does that mean? I'll just use an example. Gun owners. In Pennsylvania alone, there are in excess of 500,000 gun owners who are not even registered to vote.
Wow.
Right? So you got a state like
How many?
In excess of 500,000. It's like 512,000, something like change. In Pennsylvania alone, that's one state. 500,000 Second Amendment folks, the guys who are wearing their deer hunting camouflage 12 months out of the year, right? God bless them. I'm all for them. Who don't forget about whether they bother to vote. They've never even registered to vote. So you're talking all day long about Joe Biden and Kamala, and they're coming for your guns and all these other things, which are 100% real concerns, but you won't even get in the game and get on the field and participate. And we could go issue by issue, but there are similar problems. We got a lot of people sitting around fighting this fight in the sense that they're posting memes and they're on Facebook or wherever all day, but they're not even bothering to vote. So we got to change that. So a huge portion of what we're doing in Pennsylvania is getting the folks who already agree with us registered and then getting them to the polls.
What's the last day to register to vote in Pennsylvania?
Well, you can register almost up until
Okay.
election day. I think
Okay.
it's like, in fact, I was looking at it yesterday. It's like less than a week out.
Okay.
And because I was thinking, I don't even understand how that's possible, how you're going to register and they're going to actually, but any event,
What about the Christians, the evangelicals?
We could go, yeah, I'm using the Second Amendment guys as an
Yeah,
example, but the same is true of evangelicals. The
yeah,
same is true of Christians. Same is true on so many other issues. You got people who are scared to death, and they should be scared to death about everything that's going on. It's for real in
yeah.
this country, people. But you won't even bother to register and go vote. So we got to change that, and we just produced a whole bunch of flyers up here
Mhm.
in Pennsylvania by the coalition produced them. One of them is a very simple flyer on issues pertaining to gun confiscation, gun rights, Second Amendment, and what the Biden-Kamala Harris agenda is. Okay. And we deliberately made them black and white and very simple on one page and all of that so they can be duplicated and passed out. Every gun shop in Pennsylvania should have a stack. The second issue is not just getting the people who support with us to vote, it's getting the people who are still undecided to vote in our favor. And this is what I'm going to say to you, simply in the interest of time. You got to boil, when you're talking to the undecided, the folks who are not MAGA, you got to boil this down to what I call kitchen table issues. Okay? What's that mean? The price of gas, the price of housing, inflation, crime, the border. The folks who don't agree with you about Marxism and the threat to the republic, but they still got to fill up the truck and they still got to try to make a mortgage payment and all of this, and they're still terrified of crime in the streets and carjacking in Philly. Those folks you can reach on those issues. So when you're talking to the undecided, I would suggest don't lead with this is all a Marxist conspiracy to overthrow the republic.
Even though it is.
You know that I largely agree with that.
Yeah,
The point
yeah.
is, talk to them about the fact that their checking account is empty. They can't afford to fix the washing machine, and they're terrified to ride the subway because of crime. Those are the things that will work with the undecided.
Yeah, yeah, perfect. I like it. And it's so key. I mean, I would just talk to anybody and ask them how they feel when they go to the grocery store every week because it's every single week. And I was at Sam's the other day, and now they have a limit on eggs. You can only buy
Yep.
2 containers of eggs per member. I mean, that's crazy. And so it's this is where we are now. You and I know, like you said, that there's a huge, massive conspiracy to turn this country full communist. I mean, that's
Yes.
pretty obvious,
Yes.
even just with the gun grab. But I think that you're right when it comes to those types of issues. You sort of lose people because it's something they can't control. And this is what it comes down to. You talk to people about things that are within their control and that affect them
Yes.
immediately. What affects people immediately is the fact that it costs $100, $150 to fill up your truck.
Yep.
And your gun guys, they're paying $150 to fill up their truck.
Yes.
And they are, not able to take their family out to eat on a Friday night because they're spending $150 on the truck and because it costs $200 to take your family out to eat, whereas it used to cost, $75. And that's not an exaggeration. So these are the issues. Believe it or not, we're actually coming up on time. I've got to get my dad to an appointment, and I know that you're super busy. Sam, how can people follow you?
Easiest place to find me is to go to ANDMagazine. So the magazine that my wife and I run, ANDMagazine, ANDMagazine.substack.com. We are on Truth Social and Getter and Twitter, but
Okay.
ANDMagazine will get you there.
ANDMagazine, ANDmagazine.substack.com. I want to address one comment that has come up in the chat here on X. I can't reply, and I apologize to people that there's typing noise when I'm replying. That's a software issue, and I really don't mean to distract you. But this comment is, most non-voting people have enough money so that they can get by easily. I totally disagree. I mean,
Right.
most people that I know of that are struggling financially are in that category of not voting. We're not talking about the independently wealthy. We're not talking about trust fund people. We're talking about people that are one paycheck away from being destitute and who are using their credit cards to buy groceries.
That's right.
That's who we're talking about, and people are doing that. The amount of credit has increased a lot in the past 3 years, the credit card debt. So that's a real indicator. Now, I wanted to thank everybody for listening today. This is Mary Grace Media. I am Mary Grace, and I want to let you know that we have a live show coming up on Saturday morning with our friend Dr. Troy Sproul. We will be doing a Q&A. He is a functional medicine practitioner, and I have several listeners who have signed on with his practice to be patients, and I'm getting incredible feedback about the experience and the process. And so please come 10 a.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. Saturday to do a live Q&A. It's very popular. People love that show. Think about what your questions are. If you are in my paid subscriber group on Facebook, if you are a paid subscriber, your questions will take precedence. So think about those questions. Paid subscribers will have priority with their questions, and also Rumble Rants will have priority with the questions. So think about that, and we will see you back here. Sam Faddis, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. We're so grateful, and I want to remind everybody that the way that the news gets out is by you sharing it. That's why it's called social media, and we want you to share this. We want you to like. We want you to subscribe. Hit the thumbs up. If you're on Rumble, go and hit the thumbs up just under the video. That's how other people see that we have a video up. When they see those thumbs up, it pushes it up in the algorithm and it recommends the video to like-minded people. They're getting better and better at that, but you got to hit that thumbs up underneath the video. So follow the channel, subscribe, and remember that nobody is writing to you in the Rumble chat and asking you to join their financial scheme, even if they have a fake name such as Mary Grace Media. I am a verified account with a green shield next to my name. That means it's verified. If you're getting messages from an unverified account, please report it. Please send me an email, info@marygracemedia.com, and tell me about it. Give me a screenshot and we'll report it and get them blocked. But don't buy that crap. Don't click their links, guys. They're trying to scam you. That's it. So thanks again, Sam, for being here. We always love having you. Please give our love to Mrs. Sam the Spy and all the critters up there on the mountain. And we hope to see you very soon. We'll be back here very soon. Everybody have a great day. Thanks so much.
Listen, we're finally bringing the most requested offer ever. Get the queen size premium MyPillow, now only $19.98. MyPillow is made with patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position. It helps keep your neck aligned and holds its shape all night long so you get the best sleep of your life. But that's not all. Get our 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets only $25. Our brand new mattress topper as low as $69.98. Get our famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25 and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to get huge discounts on all MyPillow products, including the premium queen size MyPillow, only $19.98. That's the lowest price ever. Don't delay, order today. From all of us here at MyPillow, thanks America!